Today I'm looking at this Seat Alhambra, similar to a Volkswagen Charan or a Ford Galaxy. This one's got a P0016 fault code, the cam crank. It says the circuit range performance, so it's including the circuit side of it and the range and the performance, which is almost like it wasn't sure what is wrong with it, because it's not saying circuit or range and performance. But I heard a noise behind the timing cover. I've pulled this off already. The timing cover, I could almost feel it through the cover, and it's this belt. You see how it's starting to split, and I think that bit there must have been whipping or bashing off the side of the timing cover. So you see the belt's all the way to one side, like it's been chewing up. Don't quite know why yet, but there's the problem. Cam crank correlation in the belt. Apparently this was changed a year ago, because the guy bought the car a year ago and they said they'd do the belt for him. I've decided not to start it up since seeing that. That just happened to be there when I took the top cover off. That was right at the top. So probably the worst one I've seen that's not actually fully broken. So I'm gonna, because it's raining, I'm just gonna get this done and changed. But anyway, that's the cam crank that I'm doing today. I'll see if there's anything else I can add to this video. Okay, this is taking longer than it should do because these screws in here were rounded off. Those screws. So this is what you might find when you're doing this sort of thing. You don't know who's been there before. They maybe didn't have something suitable to get the length on it and they've rounded it. Made it awkward for me, but I've got the timing tool on there. Right, so the bottom one has got a hole here, that pin goes in, this bit slips onto the bottom of the gear. Now that's okay at the bottom. Well, I'm saying it's okay, it's not okay. Here's the top one. Timing's out quite a bit, you see down here. That bolt there that's at 6 o'clock should be nearer here where my finger is now. I'll move that. It should be there. It's that much out. It should be here, and it's there. And the same here, this timing's out here, so the belt has jumped. So what I will say is it's worth putting the belt on. You can see how bad it is. It's worth putting a belt on and trying it because the engine actually ran. I switched it off because it was making a lot of noises, but it did run. So what I'm thinking is the valves should be okay because they're not intermittent. They're either broken, there's no compression, or they're not. And it was okay. There was plenty of, it was running. Cam crank fault code was on, so I think in this case it was running. I don't have to worry about the valves being damaged. It's not a guessing game at this stage. We know they're okay. Because once they're bent, they don't unbend themselves, you know what I mean? So at this point, I don't need to worry the customer. I'll just put the belt on and start it up and make sure everything's okay. I'll turn it over by hand first a few times, then I'll start it. Everything's fine, but it is one of those things. The timing's out a little bit. It must have jammed teeth, maybe at this weak bit. Don't know yet. I've got to figure out why it's done what it's done, but we'll get to that in a bit. I've got a screenshot showing where the timing marks should be, and they're not where they should be at the top. It's probably easier for me to line those two up first, then take the belt off, then I've only got to turn the camshaft. It might be easier to do it that way, instead of trying to do it at the top. I'll figure that out, because I could take the tool out at the bottom, turn this back a bit, see if those two line up. The cam and the fuel pump, if they line up, I'll pin them up first, then I'll take the tensioner off, take the belt off and line up the bottom one again. Here's another way of looking at it. I've lined up the camshaft now. I've got the pin in here, where my finger is. Got the pin in there. Camshaft's lined. That one's almost in line, not quite, for the fuel pump. But if we look down here, how far out that is. This hole should be lining up with that there. That's how far out it is. I have to set it up and just turn it over by hand and see what happens. I've had this turned over a few times with the timing tool in there, behind that. Timing tool goes in. I've also painted it, but that's just so that when I spin it round a couple of turns, I know roughly where to put the timing tool back in. I'm not using that as my mark. However, just move that bit of crap off that gear there, off the sprocket. Now, I suppose it is a gear. Right, what I wanted to say was, I've changed the belt and changed the water pump, changed the pulleys and the tensioner, the idlers, but I had to take this off and check what's going on, because when this was at the right place with the pin at the cam, remember how it wasn't in the right place before? Well, it's a mile out, the pin still doesn't go in, and you can't rotate it, it locks up. So there's a reason for that. You can't actually get them in the right place to put the pin in and then turn it and it locks up. It's just not, it's not going in to begin with. So what I've done was looked at the camshafts. So we've got two camshafts. It's not exhaust and inlet. They're both inlet and exhaust. They're inlets, then it's followed by the exhaust. One of them spins the way of the rotation of the engine. The other one's got a gear at the end, so that'll spin the opposite way because the teeth mesh at the end. So this one spins the other way. So these lobes come together as this rotates like that. And then after they've just gone to the outside edge, that lobe's there, both on the outside of the rockers. These two lobes here that also spin the same direction, the exhaust lobes, they're about to start compressing on the rockers. So we know we're at the point of rock. I've also taken out a glow plug and used a really long Allen key, one of those, and I know it's TDC on the bottom is where TDC should be. The pin matches the piston height exact, that's spot on. And I know I've had this sprocket off, it's only one way it goes on, and these that's why I can't understand why it's so far out for the timing pin. So what I've done, I've had to use my own marks on this one, here and here, through there. Right. Don't like to do this. There's pins for a reason, but they don't line up on the cam. The two camshafts are both doing what they should be doing from what I can see. The old belt was really ready to snap, whatever that is. Here it is. Now I was thinking it's not been changed because of the state of it, but I could be wrong. It might have been changed because the pulley here, you see it's like got a slipping effect on one bit. It's like the belt's been slipping on it, it's not been rotating. Maybe it was over tightened, I don't know. Maybe the pulley went faulty, it over tightened, and that's what's caused this. I mean, it over tightened it. What I'm trying to say is it wasn't spinning. This isn't a standard Volkswagen one. This is the choice. You can put this sensor from the original water pump into here so it still sees a complete circuit and doesn't flag a fault code, but we don't have that sleeve that covers the impeller when it's warming up. It doesn't have one. So somebody has done it. I don't know if this just went faulty and the belt started to slip on it. That's my thought, and I think that's why I can't see any writing on the belt. But it doesn't explain. I had to take the injectors and stuff out to get the cam cover off, but it doesn't explain this sprocket at the top. It only goes on one way. You can't put it on backwards. You know, the writing faces out. It only goes on one way. You know, it's offset. You would be doing something special if you put it on backwards. It's just not lining up, and for whatever reason, I don't know. I don't know the history of the car, and neither does the owner. Yeah, I've done it so that, also changed it so that I've got the rockers on cylinder 1, and so cylinder 4 would have been on the power stroke. It still doesn't line up, right? It's just going to be the exact opposite of where it is. So it's at 12 o'clock, it would be at 6 o'clock, but it's somewhere around 7 o'clock position where the hole is. So I've checked everything I can. I've had a look to see if there's a woodruff key on the bottom, and there's not. It's kind of like got a circle with a flat piece across it, so it's like that shape. So it's not got a woodruff key on the crankshaft pulley, so that's unlikely to have been worn away and be slightly out of sync. Plus the TDC, it is at the top when I checked it. Well, here's the Allen key that I was using for a glow plug hole. However, I ended up taking the injectors out, so I could have just used that, but before I got that far I just took a glow plug out. So now I gotta put the cover on, the injectors back in. It doesn't explain this. I don't know what that line is on there. Doesn't explain that pulley. It's a strange one, and when I was looking at it and saying shit, it's jumped teeth, well, a diesel needs compression, so it can't have jammed that many teeth, you know what I mean? It wouldn't have ran. It only has to be a little bit out, and there'd be so little compression that it wouldn't run. So kind of alarm bell should have gone off for me back then, and it didn't. I'm just going to build this up. I've turned it over by hand, and nothing makes contact in the valves. So I'm happy that I'm not going to have any valve damage by carrying on. I'll put the injectors in, maybe turn it over again, see if it still feels like I've got compression. And hopefully that's it. This is really weird. I don't feel right about that, but I also don't have any parts, and I don't know what bit needs replaced really, because this pulley only goes on one way. If I got a new pulley, it would just go on in the same place. The shaft looks like these lobes are all fixed. They're not. They don't look like they're sort of heated up and put onto the shaft. The end of the shaft is just, there's no woodruff key. It's just like, well, there is a woodruff key, but there's no damage to the woodruff key. It's the keyway is actually this little loop that you see on the back of it. I don't know if you can, that bit is actually the keyway, and that's there, and that only goes on one way. Wouldn't matter if you put it on the other way, because this wouldn't line up here with the window for the adjustment. It would be on the other side somewhere. Everything only goes on one way, but because the cam it's not got a sensor here, the cam sensor's over here. I'm going to build it up and see what happens. It might be, I did watch a video with Sandy Anderson ages ago with a Volkswagen, and the seal was wrong on the flywheel, the crank on the gearbox side. The seal was wrong. It was picking up something to do with the seal has to be put in the correct position. So I don't know if that's maybe rotated, but I'm happy with all this, apart from that sprocket. But the thing is, I had to do it anyway. When you see that, it needed done. No two ways about it. That was about to snap, so I needed to put the belt on. And if it's in the same place it was, maybe a little bit better, because I've got it to the point of rock. I'll let you know what it's like when I build it up. That's it done. It's running. Just bleeding the coolant. What I've done is also change the drive belt for the alternator. I've changed the engine oil and filter, the air filter, the fuel filter, and the column filter whilst I was here. I've just got to reset the service light. But I've come in here, and without me even clearing the fault codes, there's no engine light. I forgot to say, there was a P0101, a MAF fault, and the other fault was the flashing glow plug, and I had cam crank correlation. And it's gone. I've not cleared it, so I'm going to plug the scan tool in and clear it anyway. But this is kind of, it's a relief. You know, why the pulley's in the wrong place, I don't know, but I just went back to kind of like how you would do a car that didn't have timing pins, old school kind of way of doing it. And it's fine. It might be a technician's nightmare seeing somebody doing that. You know, it's not the right procedure. But why is the pulley out of alignment? Now I think the problem that I've seen is the belt was slipping. And I think that's this. You know, it's slipping. It's left the black from the belt. There, you see that it's shiny. I think that's either not been spinning or it's been slipping, so it was just loose. It was a little loose on the indicator, but not like way loose or anything. And I think that's why it's rubbed the writing off, and maybe it started to split the belt for whatever reason. It has had a water pump though, so I think the belt's been changed in the past. I think that's been done because that is one of the ones without the sleeve. I think I said that earlier, but it's took me a while to finish this off. So there's the bits that were in it. Kinda need it done anyway. Air filter's a bit choked as well. It's probably been done. This car's a taxi, you know, so it will be done regularly. Does a lot of miles. Just keeping an eye on the coolant. And then I've put my tools away, well, most of them, whilst I'm waiting for it to bleed itself. Yeah, I need to organise the van better. I got this van from a guy over in Bodmin. It wasn't a lot. Rattles a bit, so I might need to do a bit with the engine. I know I've got a leak from the rear main oil seal, but it's a Citroen Dispatch. It's a little bit bigger than my what was the other thing I had? I was going to say Escort. This is a long day. My brain's not working. It was a Transit Connect. My brain needs a rest. Anyway, hopefully this is helpful to somebody. Well, I don't know how it can be helpful. You really shouldn't be seeing cam. The pulleys not lining up. That's just, I don't get it. Anyway. There's no reason that anything slipped because the way it's made, the keyways are all fine. There's no way that something slipped. I just don't get it at the moment, unless it's had a pulley changed at some time in its life. I don't know, but I know it's happy with the timing because before I could clear the fault code with the ignition on, as soon as you start it, I mean, like straight away that glow plug was flashing and the cam crank correlation came back, and there was a hell of a noise coming from it. Like I say, I think it was this belt just flapping about, that loose bit, and you could feel it. You could feel it when you put your hand on the timing belt cover. I'll let it warm up. I'll put the engine cover on actually. I should have that in my van somewhere. Yeah, what I'm going to do is get a little shelf across from the wheel arch to the wheel arch. And the big things like the jacks, the ramps, axle stands, heavy things, maybe even that box that I keep my power tools in, that's all going to go under it. Maybe a bottle of water and stuff like that I keep for, you know, topping up screen washers. Maybe put these things down. I'm going to swivel my toolbox around. I'll show you that. I just got this one there, so there's no stickers on it or nothing. I might just put that near the other end of the van. I used to like it when it was inside, so I could look to where I want on a rainy day without getting the whole lot soaked. So I'm probably going to do that again, get it set up. And any of these big cases, like that injector puller and stuff, they can go somewhere else. But anyway, hopefully this one, this Seat Alhambra, the same as a Volkswagen Charan, or maybe a Ford Galaxy, a newer one, I don't know. But hopefully it's been helpful, and thanks for watching.